Welcome everybody back to Boost Emotion, guys. Let's have a conversation today. Let's have a conversation, guys. We are moving into the future, and guys, do you really want to give up your internal combustion cars? Do you guys really want to start driving electric cars? Honestly, I do not. But let's have a serious conversation. I want to make this a vlog. We're also going to cite an article briefly, but I want to just talk to you guys, and I want you guys to comment below and tell me what you honestly feel and what you think about auto manufacturers trying to force us into getting electric cars. That's how we feel like we're being so much propaganda behind it. But anyways, first thing, shout out to my Boost Emotion family. I know you guys have already hit the like button. Thank you guys for your support. And if you're new to the Boost Emotion channel, I am Boost Emotion. I'm a Nissan Infiniti enthusiast, car enthusiast, and I'm report the news. Also, I'm also an owner of a Mercedes E63 and was a former owner of a C63. So, I'm learning a little bit. But anyways, this article is from Jalopnik. I don't want to drive an internal combustion cars anymore. Now, this article is pretty much from a guy who pretty much test drove a bunch of cars over the years. And he's pretty much pinpointing on how electric cars give him a different feel and a different livelihood. Let's quote this part. The outgoing AMG E63, right? The EQE is the closest ICE equivalent, was a hilarious car. It was rowdy and fun to drive while still being an excellent luxury car with all the best modern tech. Obviously, I love AMG twin turbo V8s, one of the most giggly inducing engines on the market. I'll be sad when the AMG V8 dies. It's truly EVs can't match the visceral drama of the loud, powerful engine. Yes, as I keep saying, guys, electric cars don't have emotion. They do not give emotion. They are one-trick ponies. Just like you get a Prius for saving gas mileage, or you get a Toyota Camry so you can be an Uber driver, or you get a Q50 to be a complete piece of shit on the road. But nonetheless, you know what I mean? Like, these things are for a specific use, right? Listen to how much power this car makes. 677 horsepower and 738 pounds of torque. That's kind of like the conversion of how much this car makes from electric power to horsepower. And we sit there and we think about that as this must be a monstrous type of car. But it's a one-trick pony. It doesn't have a traditional transmission where it goes through 7, 8, 9 gears or 10 gears. It's like, ooh, and that's it. Like, it's a different type of power delivery. So it doesn't stimulate the emotion. Because after you get over the wow effects, that's really it. Now they do cite a couple of other companies like such as the Porsche Taycan, the BMW iX, this thing right here, and the Rivian R1S. These and they talked about their specific vehicles, right? And even when you sit there and think about those vehicles, they are necessarily more for the people who want to spend, who have enough money, middle class people who want something electric that may not want a V8 or these high end cars. They just want the luxury, the name, and I'm not killing the earth, even though to make a battery, you got to burn so much coal and do a lot of other nonsense to be able to just make these batteries. Nonetheless, we still have to use it regardless, right? So this one says, let me just try to run through this article, right? So the Bentley Continental GT and the Rolls-Royce Ghost badge both have whispered quiet twin turbo 12-cylinder engines, which honestly, guys, I love it, right? These cars already drive like EVs, so the transition to electrification for high-end brands should be seamless. Because they message started talking about the idea of how quiet these cars, how much luxury is put into these cars, where honestly you don't even know there's a V8 under it, right? And they don't. It's not like you're being thrashed around in the car how it delivers the power. It delivers the power very linear and smooth. It's still a fast, powerful vehicles, but they're super docile, cool, like an elephant, you know. But then it says it's not just luxury cars that make you feel this way. It's also the Chevy Bolt EV, another great example. Chevy's entry-level cars like the Trax are now dead. Sparks and Sonic have never been compelling. Most economy cars aren't, honestly, but the Bolt has an affordable price tag, but it's certainly a more pleasant driving experience than a gas-powered cars in this category, thanks to its instant torque, quieter cabin, and more compromised ride, all courtesy of the big battery pack and electric motor. So pretty much what he's saying here is in the introductory stage, right, in the entry stage of the compact sedans, right, that because the cars are now technically now gasoline powered anymore, so there's not other things moving, that all the money and time that was put into the drivetrain, technically they could take whatever extra money they're saving and put into the refinement of the interior of the vehicle and how they design the architecture of the vehicle so they can actually make it a better, more pleasant experience. And because it doesn't have those other noises or other things they need to compile with, honestly, it's just a better driving experience. Also, to be fair, you can go with a smaller motor for a lot of these vehicles, and the motor may only make like 191 horsepower from that motor, but it'll give you like 350 pounds of torque. So that's a completely different driving experience compared to like a four cylinder that makes, once again, 191 horsepower, but then it'll make like 163 pounds of torque. So it's a way different linear, like not linear, but different driving experience from that, you know? So I kind of get where they're coming from with that. Now, this guy says the Volkswagen ID4 is boring as hell and plagued with obnoxious ergonomic and infotainment issues, but at least it's much nicer to drive than a Tiguan. Segments favorites like the Honda Accord, the Tucson, the Telluride, and the CX-5 will be improved with an electric powertrain. So would the least appealing models in each class. Wow. So he's pretty much pushing the idea that because if you make a lot of these cars electric, or that the driving experience would just be much more better. Now, let's go. We're almost finished, guys, because I'm going to give you my guys' final estimate on how I honestly feel about some of this article. I'm not going to go through everything here. Many electric vehicles are pushing the boundaries of aerodynamics, partially because of the sleek design that helps with battery range. Mercedes Super Slippery EQXX recently drove 747 miles on a single charge, and its awesome styling and ergonomic tech will be found on the electric CLA replacement arriving next year. On the flip side, efficiency, performance EVs are achieving feats that gas cars can never. Multiple electric SUVs on the near horizon will be able to be tank turns to spin in place. The Rimac Navara, right, has the most advanced torque vectoring system ever made, and it has broken every acceleration record under the sun. Lexus is working on a simulated manual transmission for its upcoming LFA successor, and a Hyundai Iconic 5 will debut later this year with a simulated DCT. So, like I said, guys, we are on the cusp of these auto manufacturers knowing, okay, cool, we can make an electric car, but how do we make this electric car now fun for some people? Like, yes, people get it for its use, right? People got Teslas for its use. A to B, it's an iPhone on wheels. But now, how can we make that experience even more funner for the people who aren't like that? The people who get into this car and like, woo, this is kind of cool. It's kind of, you want to make it feel more hip, I would say, right? And the fact that they are looking to make transmissions something that simulates his feelings, and maybe, I hate to say, they pump sounds into it, but I get it. But once they start to be able to push the idea of doing these things, I think it's going to be the one thing that gets me into it particularly. Because when I sit there and think about it, right? Remember a couple years ago at SEMA, they had a electric, they had a Mustang GT, but it was an electric motor with a 6-speed manual. I think it was pretty much full of BS because they never really showed the car driving. It's like the car, they just made it, but they never showed the car driving. But I would have loved to see that car drive a 6-speed manual rear-wheel drive Mustang with electric motor. I think it was making like 700 horsepower from the single motor. So that thing would have probably been moving. Especially, it probably would have been an insane car to drive because all the torque for the first, second, and third gear would probably just spun the wheels with so much torque. But I would have wanted to really see it. And now that they may be able to put this, just imagine a WRX with like an electric motor. First thing, it'll be more reliable, right? Because WRXs, SCIs can't, not even freaking reliable, right? But imagine with an electric motor, and then they still give you a 6-speed manual and a front and and their transfer case in the front and rear wheels. That car will be amazing to drive. Insane, right? But then also my Q50 guys. Imagine if they gave us an electric motor too. Same thing with a traditional 7 speed or 9 speed automatic to the front and back. Quiet car will still look amazing. But one of the things I always sat there and said the most in some of my older videos is they never had to make electric cars ugly. All they need to do is imagine if Dodge, we like the wide body Hellcat. Some of you guys don't, but I do. I like the wide body Hellcat Chargers. You add a electric motor to the front, electric motor to the rear, transfer case, whatever you got to do, and give me 1,000 horsepower out of it. I think that car looks amazing ready. I don't care if it doesn't make the noise. It's okay. It looks freaking amazing. It does all what I needed to do. It's all-wheel drive, and it's going to be a hell of a lot of cars out there. I thought that car had been super dope if they would have made an electric one. And as they saying, they want to go full electric. So we'll see what their next Hellcat will really be. So I want to just speak on this one last part. One of the best cars I drove was is in 2022 was an Automobile. I'm not pronouncing the word, guys, but it was a $2 million hypercar with 1,800 horsepower. It's crazy fast, yes, but what made me fall in love with the car personality was the Battista or whatever it is has all the theater of a traditional Italian supercar with none of the powertrain related drawbacks. Sure, the infrastructure still can be a pain in the ass. For example, there is no way of charging at the apartment. There aren't nearly enough charges in our country for all out switch EVs. Okay, I don't want to get into this part, but that's actually what he's talking about. Like, yeah, screw that. No more about the article. Let me honestly continue talking. That's some of the drawbacks too. The infrastructure is not designed for these electric cars, right? It's just not designed for. I live in New York City. There is no electric infrastructure to charge all these EVs. Like if 20% of New Yorkers traded up their gasoline cars and went EV, there will be no place for them to charge, and the infrastructure will die. Period. It will die. It will not work. And honestly, that means these cars will need to have so much solar panels. Every building will need to have a solar panel of some kind, so we can recoup as much money as we can to just power these electric vehicles or just power the grid, right? And I see this as a problem. I think electric cars, once again, is more for rural areas, for people who drive short distances to work. They could charge at home, and it's a less dense city or town or county. Electric cars fit very well in here. That's why I think electric cars is more of a middle class thing, not so much a lower class or entry level. Yes, it's cool. Oh, I have an entry level electric Honda Civic. Okay, cool. The everyday person, if they live in a city, it's not going to be the infrastructure will not be able to help them. But if they live in a rural area, yes, maybe it'll be a lot better. Once again, I think it's a middle class um privilege, and I think that majority of people technically would love the idea of having one, but because of the anxiety, because of the access to charging, it just won't exist. um I do want to end it with this part because I may still have some of my Infinity guys watching. A couple of years ago, I would say about 3-4 years ago, Infinity was talking about making their hybrid systems, and their hybrid systems is going to be a 4-cylinder gasoline motor, and that gasoline motor is what will run on gasoline and charge the electric battery packs that will drive the front and rear wheels of the car. So basically, there'll be two electric motors that drive the front and rear wheels, and a 4-cylinder electric motor that is just used just to charge the battery packs that run on that. And there's also regenerative braking or whatever, right? And stuff like that. I thought the system was, I think it's called a parallel hybrid. And I thought this was actually a really good idea. And I think it's one of the best ways to transition into this because it's technically like you're driving on electric, but you don't have to deal with the anxiety of like, oh my God, I have to go charge. Where am I gonna charge my batteries at? When no, the 4-cylinder motor is actually what charge it. The 4-cylinder never is not connected to the drivetrain whatsoever, just to the battery pack. And it's kind of like, all right, cool, the car just idles on that. But I sit there and think about the implications of what that would actually translate in the real world. If Infinity decided to make that type of platform, and I think it was like there was actually one other company, a Fisker, designed something like that, a parallel hybrid, right? I can see that if it's applied well, that you can have an electric car, technically, right? that can probably drive 250, 300 miles, right, on a single charge. But if you have a four-cylinder motor and a gas tank of, let's say, 10 to 15 gallons, right? Remember, this four-cylinder isn't revving high. It's just there to charge the battery pack. Then essentially you can get more than 250 because remember the engine is charging the battery pack. So then essentially you're actually going to get until that engine runs out of gasoline, that battery pack is going to keep charged. So you may get 4, 5, 6, 7, 800 miles depending on the quality of electric motors they use, and also the battery packs they use and how it's just discharged. I would love to see this actually applied properly in the U.S. market and see what it would actually make. And I think honestly, it will be a game changer for hybrids. I think it would personally, but they don't have the money to take on some other task like that. They don't have the money to. Right now, I think in this day and age, auto manufacturers are thinking about hybrids as either one, it's a plug-in hybrid, right? Where it's either you drive on electric or you drive on gasoline, whichever comes first, or you can choose so, and that's it. So when the electric battery fully dies, now you're on gasoline. You drive like that for the rest until the extra electric battery gets energy back, or you charge it up based on the type of components is on the car, right? Or vice versa, all electric. I forgot one car I driven was like that, where you drive all electric first, and after all electric, then it goes back to gasoline. It's super weird. Like you had no choice of driving in gasoline and gasoline only, right? But a parallel hybrid, I would say, will be a game changer. And I would love to see other manufacturers do it. I would love to see it. But nonetheless, that's just my opinion. Even though I do have some kind of an electric engineer background, a little bit of engineering background, that's just the way I sit there and things, and I just try to see how it applies to the actual world, period. But outside of that, guys, you have a good morning, good afternoon, good night. I appreciate you. Thank you for ranting with your boy Boost. I'm just talking. This is my little bit of vlogging, just saying, hey, listen, yo, will you drive electric cars in the future? Just as thought to put that out there with you guys. So outside of that, guys, you have a good morning, good afternoon, good night. You can add me at boostinmotion on IG, Facebook. Also, you can send me an email at boostinmotion@gmail.com. Otherwise than that, guys, I appreciate it. You guys have a good day. Thank you.